The autumn rain painted the city streets in shades of silver and gold. Sophie Hart stood outside the Grandview Hotel, clutching a cream envelope that felt heavier than paper should. Inside was an invitation to her family reunion, the kind of event where everyone would ask about her life, her career, her relationship status. The kind of event where Trevor Walsh would be present with his new fiancée, Miranda Lawson, daughter of a real estate mogul. Sophie had spent 3 years rebuilding herself after Trevor left. 3 years of turning a broken heart into brushstrokes, of converting pain into portraits that hung in small galleries nobody visited. She taught art to middle schoolers now, her dreams of becoming a renowned painter feeling more distant with each passing month. At 28, she felt like she was standing still while everyone else moved forward. Her best friend Claire had insisted she attend the reunion. "You cannot let him think he broke you," Claire had said over coffee that morning. "You need to show him you have moved on, that you are happy, that you are thriving." The problem was that Sophie was not thriving. She was surviving, barely. The charity art auction inside the hotel was in full swing. Sophie had not planned to attend, but Claire worked for the event planning company and had smuggled her in. "Just stay for an hour," Claire whispered before disappearing into the crowd. "Network a little. You never know who might want to buy your art." Sophie wandered through the gallery space, admiring paintings she could never afford. The room buzzed with wealth and confidence, everything she lacked. Women in designer dresses laughed delicately. Men in tailored suits discussed investments. Sophie felt like a ghost in her simple black dress from 3 seasons ago. She was examining a sculpture when someone bumped into her from behind. Her glass of red wine tipped forward, splashing across a crisp white shirt. Sophie gasped, spinning around to face her victim. "I am so sorry," she stammered, grabbing napkins from a nearby table. The man stood perfectly still. He was tall, perhaps 6'2", with dark hair styled with casual precision. His suit probably cost more than her monthly rent. But it was his eyes that caught her, deep gray eyes that seemed to calculate and assess everything in seconds. "It is fine," he said calmly, though the wine stain spread across his chest like a crimson flower. "No, it is not fine. I am such a disaster. Let me help." Sophie dabbed frantically at his shirt, making it worse. Other guests were starting to stare. The man gently caught her wrist. "Please stop. You are making it worse." Sophie looked up at him, truly seeing him for the first time. There was something familiar about his face, though she could not place it. "I really am sorry, Mr. Sterling. Nathan Sterling." Sophie felt her stomach drop. Nathan Sterling. The Nathan Sterling. CEO of Sterling Technologies. Billionaire, regularly featured in business magazines. And she had just dumped wine all over him. "Oh no," she whispered. Of course it is you." A hint of amusement touched his expression. "You know who I am? Everyone knows who you are." She wanted to disappear into the marble floor. "I should go." "Wait." His voice was not unkind. "What is your name?" "Sophie. Sophie Hart." She was already backing away. "I truly am sorry about your shirt." She fled toward the restroom, her cheeks burning with embarrassment. Inside, she leaned against the sink, staring at her reflection. Disaster. Complete disaster. Even her attempts at networking ended in humiliation. When she finally emerged, the auction had moved to the main ballroom. Sophie decided to leave through the side exit. She did not belong here, not in this world of wealth and elegance. But as she turned the corner, she nearly collided with Nathan Sterling again. He had changed into a fresh shirt, impeccably white. "Running away?" he asked. "I think I have caused enough trouble for one evening. The wine stain was not intentional. Was it?" Sophie blinked. "No, of course not. Then you have caused no trouble." He studied her with those calculating gray eyes. "You look distressed." Is it really about the wine? Something in his tone, the gentleness beneath the formality, cracked something inside her. The stress of the past weeks, the dreaded reunion, the weight of feeling inadequate came rushing forward. I have to go to this family reunion next week, she found herself saying. And my ex will be there with his perfect new fiancée, and everyone will see that I am still alone, still struggling, still the same failure I was when he left me. Nathan listened without interruption. I just want to show him I moved on too, that I am happy, that I am not the broken girl he discarded. Her voice broke slightly. But I cannot even afford a decent dress, let alone bring someone impressive. The words hung in the air between them. Sophie could not believe she had just confessed. All that to a stranger, to a billionaire stranger who had better things to do than listen to her pathetic problems. I will go with you, Nathan said quietly. Sophie stared. What? To your reunion? I will go with you. Be your date. You cannot be serious. Why not? His expression remained neutral, unreadable. You need someone to accompany you. I have time next week. You do not even know me. I just spilled wine on you. Consider it an interesting evening. Nathan pulled out his phone. Give me your number. I will have my assistant contact you about the details. Sophie felt dizzy. This could not be real. Why would you do this? Something flickered in his eyes, something that looked almost like recognition, like memory. Let us just say I understand what it feels like to want to prove something to people who underestimated you. Before Sophie could process what was happening, she had given him her number. Nathan stored it in his phone with quick efficiency. I will see you next week, Sophie Hart, he said, then walked away, leaving her standing alone in the corridor, wondering if she had just made the best or worst decision of her life. 3 days later, a package arrived at her apartment. Inside was a dress, midnight blue silk that shimmered like starlight, with a handwritten note in elegant script. For the reunion. You deserve to shine. And as Sophie held the dress against herself, staring at her reflection, the fabric felt like water, like dreams. Claire would never believe this. Sophie barely believed it herself. But as she hung the dress carefully in her closet, she could not shake the feeling that Nathan Sterling was not just a kind stranger. There was something in the way he looked at her, something that whispered of connections she could not yet remember. The family reunion was held at the Riverside Estate, a sprawling property with manicured gardens and a view of the water. Sophie arrived in the midnight blue dress, her hair swept into a soft updo, minimal makeup highlighting her features. When Nathan's car pulled up to the entrance, heads turned. He stepped out wearing a charcoal gray suit, looking every bit the powerful CEO he was. But when he opened her door and offered his hand, his smile was warm, almost protective. You look beautiful, he said simply. Thank you for the dress, and for doing this. Sophie felt nervous butterflies in her stomach. Nathan placed his hand gently on the small of her back as they walked inside. The gesture felt natural, rehearsed, as if they had done this 1,000 times before. The grand hall was filled with relatives Sophie barely recognized. But she spotted Trevor immediately. He stood near the champagne fountain with Miranda, who wore a designer gown that probably cost more than Sophie's car. Trevor's eyes widened when he saw Sophie enter with Nathan Sterling. Sophie, Trevor said, approaching with Miranda attached to his arm. You came, and you brought someone. This is Nathan. Sterling, Sophie said, trying to keep her voice steady. Nathan. This is Trevor Walsh and his fiancée, Miranda Lawson. Nathan shook Trevor's hand with a grip that looked casual, but felt territorial. I have heard about you. Trevor laughed uncomfortably. All good things, I hope. Miranda looked Nathan up and down with obvious interest. Sterling Technologies, right? My father mentioned your recent acquisition. Very impressive. Thank you. Nathan's attention stayed on Sophie, though nothing is as impressive as Sophie's artwork. I was just telling her she should have her own exhibition. Sophie blinked. He had seen exactly one piece of her art, a small watercolor she had brought to show Claire at the auction, yet he spoke as if he had studied her entire portfolio. Oh, Sophie, still paints, Trevor said with a condescending smile. Such a sweet hobby. It is not a hobby, Nathan said, his voice cooling several degrees. It is her profession, and she is exceptionally talented. The rest of the evening passed in a blur. Nathan stayed close, always attentive, always aware of where Sophie was and what she needed. When she mentioned being thirsty, he appeared with sparkling water before she could finish the sentence. When the room grew warm, he guided her toward the terrace where the breeze was cooler. "How do you do that?" Sophie asked as they stood overlooking the gardens. "Do what? Know what I need before I say it? Earlier you ordered me chamomile tea at dinner. That is my favorite. I never told you that." Nathan looked out at the darkening sky. Maybe I am just observant. But it felt like more than observation. It felt like knowledge, like familiarity. Pieces of memory. Over the next 2 weeks, Sophie and Nathan appeared together at several events. A gallery opening, a rooftop dinner with his business associates, a charity fundraiser. Each time, he anticipated her needs with unnerving accuracy. At the gallery, he steered her away from the seafood table before she could mention her shellfish allergy. At the rooftop dinner, he ordered her meal with extra vegetables, no mushrooms, exactly how she liked it. At the fundraiser, he found her a quiet corner when the crowd became overwhelming, knowing somehow that large groups made her anxious. One evening, as they sat in his car after an event, Sophie turned to him. "We need to talk about this arrangement. What you are getting out of it." Nathan kept his eyes on the road. "Maybe I enjoy your company. Nobody is this kind without a reason. What do you want from me, Nathan?" His jaw tensed. Nothing you are not willing to give. But there was something in his voice, a weight of unspoken words that made Sophie's heart race. The sketchbook, that night, Sophie could not sleep. She lay in her small apartment, staring at the ceiling, trying to piece together the puzzle that was Nathan Sterling. Claire had fallen asleep on the couch after their evening of wine and conversation about this mysterious billionaire. Sophie wandered to her bookshelf, pulling out old photo albums from her teenage years. She flipped through images of herself at 17, 18, volunteering at various community centers. Her parents had encouraged service work, said it built character. She stopped at a photo of herself at the Riverside foster home. She was 18 in the picture, holding up artwork created by the kids. Behind her, slightly out of focus, was a thin boy with dark hair and guarded eyes. He looked about 13, standing apart from the other children. Sophie's breath caught. The eyes. Those gray eyes. She grabbed her laptop and searched for images of young Nathan Sterling. There were few, as he kept his early life private. But she found one article about his rise from foster care to billionaire status. The photos showed him at 15, already taller, but still carrying that same guarded expression. It was him, the quiet boy from Riverside, the one who sat in the back during her art classes, never speaking, always watching. The one she had given her favorite sketchbook to before she left for college. Sophie's hands trembled as memories flooded back. 15 years earlier. 18-year-old Sophie had volunteered at Riverside Foster Home every Saturday for 6 months. Most kids were loud, eager for attention, but one boy always sat quietly in the corner, observing. She approached him one afternoon. "Do you want to draw something?" The boy, whose name tag read Nathan, shook his head. "You have been watching the others. I think you want to try." She sat beside him, placing paper and charcoals in front of him. "No pressure. Just draw what you feel." His hand moved hesitantly at first, then with growing confidence. The image that emerged was stunning, dark, but powerful. A bird breaking free from a cage. "This is incredible," Sophie breathed. "You have real talent." Nathan looked at her with those serious gray eyes. Nobody ever said that before. On her last day, Sophie found Nathan sitting alone in the common room. She held out her leather sketchbook, worn and filled with her drawings. "I want you to have this," she said. "I cannot take this. It is yours." Sophie pressed it into his hands. "When you look at it, remember that someone believes you can be more than this place. Promise me something. When you make it out of here, when you build the life you deserve, help someone else the way I am trying to help you." Nathan clutched the sketchbook like it was made of gold. "I promise." Sophie hugged him briefly. "Never stop dreaming, Nathan." Present. Day Sophie sat in her apartment, tears streaming down her face. He remembered. All this time, Nathan Sterling remembered her. Her phone buzzed. A text from Nathan. "Are you awake? Can I call?" Sophie answered immediately. "It was you. The boy from Riverside. You were him." Silence on the other end, then a slow exhale. "Yes. Why did you not tell me?" "Because I wanted you to see me as I am now, not as the broken kid I was then." His voice was raw, vulnerable in a way she had never heard. "You gave me that sketchbook, Sophie. I still have it. It is the only thing I kept from that time. You told me to help someone when I made it out." Her heart ached. "So you have been helping me. You saved me first." Nathan's voice cracked slightly. "You were the only person who saw something in me worth saving. I have spent 15 years becoming someone worthy of that gift you gave me. Nathan, you were always worthy. Come to my office tomorrow," he said quietly. "There is something I need to show you." The fever. But Sophie never made it to his office. The next morning she woke burning with fever, her body aching, her head pounding. She tried to get up but collapsed back onto her bed. Claire had already left, for work. Sophie reached for her phone, meaning to text her, but her hands shook too much. The phone slipped, clattering to the floor. Hours passed in a haze. Sophie drifted between sleep and consciousness, too weak to move, too dizzy to function. The sound of her apartment door opening barely registered. Then Nathan was there, kneeling beside her bed, his hand cool against her burning forehead. "Sophie, can you hear me?" His voice was urgent, frightened. "How did you get in?" she mumbled. "Claire gave me a key. She called when you did not answer your phone." His arm slid beneath her. "I am taking you to the hospital." "No hospital," Sophie protested weakly. "Just need rest." Nathan hesitated, then made a decision. "My place, then. I can take better care of you there." He carried her to his car, wrapped in blankets, holding her as if she might shatter. At his penthouse, he laid her in his guest room, which was larger than her entire apartment. For the next 2 days, Nathan Sterling, billionaire CEO, became her personal nurse. He monitored her temperature, brought her medicine, made soup from scratch when she could barely eat. He sat beside her bed, reading aloud when she could not sleep, changed cool cloths on her forehead, never left her alone for more than a few minutes. Through her fever dreams, Sophie felt his presence, steady and constant. This was not pretend. This was not an arrangement. This was something real, something that had been growing for 15 years, waiting for them to find each other again. When her fever finally broke on the 3rd morning, Sophie woke to find Nathan asleep in the chair beside her bed. His tie was loosened, his hair disheveled, his hand still holding hers. She squeezed his hand gently. "Nathan." His eyes opened immediately. "You are awake. How do you feel?" "Better. Thanks to you." She smiled weakly. "You did not have to do all this." "Yes," Nathan said simply. "I did." And in that moment, Sophie realized that what had started as pretend had become the most real thing in both their lives. Sophie spent another week recovering at Nathan's penthouse. During that time, their arrangement shifted into something neither of them could deny. Morning coffee together became a ritual. Evening conversations stretched into midnight. The guest room felt less like temporary shelter and more like home. Nathan worked from his home office during those days, always checking on her between meetings. Sophie sketched in the sunroom, her creativity flowing in ways it had not in years. Being near him felt like remembering how to breathe properly. One afternoon, while Sophie was resting, Nathan's assistant buzzed the intercom. "Mr. Sterling, you have a visitor. Trevor Walsh. He says it is urgent." Nathan's expression darkened. "Send him to my office." Sophie, curious and still feeling protective of Nathan after everything he had done for her, quietly followed down the hallway. She stood outside the office door, which Nathan had left slightly ajar. Trevor's voice carried into the hallway. "I came to warn you, Sterling, about Sophie." Nathan's response was ice cold. "I do not need warnings about her. She is using you," Trevor insisted. "Sophie has always been good at playing the victim, making people feel sorry for her. That is how she trapped me years ago." Sophie felt her stomach twist. "You know nothing about her," Nathan said. "I know she is a failed artist, living paycheck to paycheck. I know she showed up at my engagement with you on her arm purely for revenge." Trevor laughed bitterly. "Do you really think someone like her cares about someone like you? She sees dollar signs, Sterling. That is all. Get out." Nathan's voice was dangerously quiet. "I am trying to help you. She will bleed you dry and then move on to the next rich fool." Sophie had heard enough. The words cut deep, not because she believed them, but because they confirmed what she had always feared, that everyone saw her as broken, as less than, as someone who could only survive by clinging to others. She turned and walked back toward her room, tears blurring her vision. Behind her, she heard Nathan's office door slam open. "Sophie, wait," she kept walking. "You should listen to him. Maybe he is right." Nathan caught her arm gently, turning her to face him. "Sophie, please, why are you really doing this, Nathan?" The question burst from her. "Is it guilt? Obligation? Some kind of debt you think you owe me from 15 years ago?" His gray eyes searched hers. "You truly believe that? I do not know what to believe anymore." She pulled away. "Maybe this whole thing has been a mistake, pretending to be something we are not." The truth revealed. Nathan was silent for a long moment. Then he walked to his study and returned carrying a worn leather sketchbook. Sophie recognized it immediately, her old sketchbook from Riverside. He opened it carefully, showing her pages filled with her teenage drawings. Landscapes, portraits, dreams captured in charcoal and pencil. Between the pages were notes she had written to herself, reminders to stay hopeful, to keep creating, to believe in better days. "I have carried this for 15 years, Nathan said, quietly. "Every time I wanted to give up, every time someone told me I would never amount to anything, I opened this book and read your words. You wrote on the last page, remember?" Sophie took the book with trembling hands. On the final page, in her 18-year-old handwriting, she had written, "To whoever holds this, you are worthy of every dream you dare to chase. Do not let anyone convince you otherwise." Below her message, in different ink and a masculine hand, were dates, dozens of them, years spanning from when he was 13 until present day. Beside each date was a note. Sophie read through tears. First job at 16, first apartment at 18, college scholarship at 19, started first company. At 22, each milestone marked, remembered, connected back to this book, to her words. "You were with me through everything," Nathan said. "Your belief in that scared foster kid kept him going when nothing else could." So when you walked into that auction and spilled wine on me, when I finally saw you again after all these years, do you really think I could walk away? You recognized me immediately, Sophie whispered, the moment I saw your face. Nathan stepped closer. But you did not remember me, and I understood why. You helped so many kids back then, I was just one of many. But you were everything to me. I should have remembered you. I did not want you to remember the broken boy. Nathan's voice was raw with emotion. I wanted you to see the man I became because of you. The man who could finally give you something back, who could stand beside you instead of behind you. Sophie looked up at him, understanding flooding through her. This was never about obligation or guilt. This was never pretend. I love you, Sophie Hart, Nathan said simply. I have loved you since I was 13 years old, and you told me I was worth saving. I have loved you through every success and failure, through every year that passed, hoping somehow I would find you again. And when you asked me to pretend, I said yes, because pretending to love you was easier than admitting I never stopped. Choosing love before Sophie could respond. Trevor's voice cut through from the doorway. How touching. The failed artist and her charity case. Nathan moved in front of Sophie protectively, but she stepped around him. You are right, Trevor, she said calmly. I am a failed artist. My career never took off the way I dreamed. I teach middle school art and live in a tiny apartment and struggle to pay rent sometimes. Those things are true. Trevor smirked, finally being honest. But you are wrong about Nathan. Sophie's voice grew stronger. He is not my charity case. I am not using him. What we have is real, built on something you could never understand because you only see value in money and status. Nathan reached for her hand, holding it firmly. 15 years ago, I met a boy who had nothing but still had everything that mattered. Sophie turned to Nathan. He had hope and strength and a heart that refused to break no matter how hard the world tried. I forgot him for a while, got lost in my own struggles. But he never forgot me. Trevor scoffed. This is pathetic. What is pathetic? Sophie continued. Is that you left me when I needed you most because my pain was inconvenient. You taught me that some people only love you when you are shining. But Nathan loved me even when I did not remember him. He loved me when I was sick, when I was struggling, when I had nothing to offer him except myself. She squeezed Nathan's hand. That is not charity. That is real love. Trevor's expression twisted. You will regret this. Nathan finally spoke, his voice deadly calm. Security will escort you out. If you contact Sophie again, if you speak her name again, I will make it my personal mission to ensure every business door in this city closes to you. Now leave. Trevor left, his exit marked by the slamming of the penthouse door, forever beginning. Sophie and Nathan stood in the silence that followed. Then Nathan pulled her close, resting his forehead against hers. Did you mean it? He asked. About this being real? Every word. Sophie smiled through her tears. I love you, Nathan Sterling. Not the billionaire, not the CEO. I love the boy who kept my sketchbook for 15 years. I love the man who made me soup when I was sick. I love you. Nathan kissed her then, soft and deep, a kiss 15 years in the making. When they finally pulled apart, he reached into his pocket and produced a small velvet box. I bought this 3 days after the reunion, he admitted. I kept waiting for the right moment. But there is no perfect time. There is only now. Inside the box was a ring, elegant and simple, with a stone that caught the light like captured starlight. Sophie Hart, will you marry me? Not as pretend, not as arrangement. Will you marry me because I cannot imagine my life without you in it? Sophie laughed and cried simultaneously. Yes, yes, absolutely, yes. He slid the ring onto her finger, and it fit perfectly, like everything. between them finally clicking into place. 6 months later, the small art gallery was packed with people. Sophie's first solo exhibition had drawn crowds beyond anyone's expectations. Her paintings lined the walls, each one telling stories of hope, of resilience, of love that waits patiently through time. The centerpiece was a large portrait titled, "The Boy Who Became Home." It showed a young teenager holding a sketchbook, his eyes full of dreams, and beside him an older version of himself, strong and sure, the dreams realized but the eyes still kind. Nathan stood beside her, his arm around her waist, watching people admire her work. "You did it," he whispered. "You are extraordinary." "We did it," Sophie corrected. We found our way back to each other. On her left hand, her wedding band caught the gallery lights. They had married quietly last month, just close friends present. Claire had cried through the entire ceremony. Even Nathan's usually stoic assistant had wiped away tears. As the evening wound down, an elderly woman approached Sophie. "Your work is beautiful. It speaks of second chances." Sophie smiled, leaning into Nathan's. "Embrace. Sometimes the best love stories are the ones that take time. Hearts remember what minds forget." Nathan pressed a kiss to her temple. "Always," he murmured. And standing in that gallery, surrounded by art born from struggle and love born from patience, Sophie Hart and Nathan Sterling proved that some connections transcend time, that kindness given returns multiplied, that the girl who saved a boy and the man who never forgot her could build a forever on the foundation of one generous moment 15 years past. Their story was not about rescue. It was about recognition. About two souls who found each other twice and chose each other always. The end was really just their beginning. The end.